Real Hawk Talk, episode 223. I'm not seeing on anything on YouTube, but there I am. All right. So we have Brian. Brian's at the game. Seahawks win 19-9. They are currently tied for first in the NFC West with a chance to, I believe, take first place. A big game, a big win. It was a defensive slugfest, just like we all expected from this game. Brian, why don't you give us some immediate thoughts? Oh, nope, there's no Brian. All right, so we'll hopefully Brian will be able to jump back on here in a little bit. I think the big story for me, there's a few things. Tariq Woolen is obviously one. Hey, Brian. Waiting for him to connect to audio. Looks like he's trying to get on a train. Very smooth podcast so far. Brian, are you there? Okay. Brian, still working through this. So, yep, I agree with Hunter in the chat. Woolen is our best defensive player. I don't think that's particularly close right now, although a lot of guys on the defense played well today. The defensive line showed up. There were no major issues or breakdowns in the secondary, but Woolen looks amazing. I think this is turnover. So he's had 4 straight games with a pick, and he's recovered at least 2 fumbles, or forced a fumble and recovered a fumble. Anyways, lots of turnovers. And you can start, for all the talk that we've had over the past few weeks about Geno Smith and is he playing at MVP level and what would you do at the end of the year and yada, yada, yada. I think Tariq Woolen deserves a lot of that same love. I talk about all pro season so far, talk about potential defensive player of the year season so far. If he can keep this up, obviously a pick a game, that's going to be pretty good. But he has set himself off to an amazing start on his career. Brian, can you hear me? Can we hear you? All right. I'm not sure if we'll get other folks on the call, but I will let you know that yes, Dayna is ecstatic that we had a defensive slugfest that the Seahawks won. This is her type of football. She's extremely happy. And I think, again, I don't know where folks stand on the whole team tank, Bryce Young, Stroud, all that. But I think if you're holding out any hope for this team to be a playoff team, and right now, like, they are competitive in a not super competitive division, I think the defense showing signs of life is a huge storyline. The offense struggled a bit. They continue to run the ball extremely well, but they did not pass nearly as well. I don't think that was on Geno. I'm suspicious that was about the receivers or maybe some of the game plan or maybe some of the Cardinals game plan. They deserve some credit there too. But yeah, the offense has been good. If the defense can be, okay or good, and you can marry that all together, or you can just grind out wins like they did today, then yeah, you are on your way to legitimately threatening the playoffs. I'm going to assume that everyone can hear me. Brian is apparently having some audio issues with his phone, so he's going to try to join back here in a little bit. But yeah, I think Tariq Woolen is obviously a huge storyline coming out of this game. People are going to want to talk about Kenneth Walker III a lot. He had some huge runs. This rushing attack continues to be extremely effective. I'm not sure what the EPA numbers are. I guess I could actually go pull those up. They are available. Not running backs don't matter. What is the acronym for running backs don't matter? RBDM, RBSDM. probably shouldn't have to think about this so much. I go to the site more than a little bit. So I'll try to pull up some of that. But Walker, a few big runs, a touchdown. I think the play of the game for him was obviously the mini beastquake that he had where he broke 3 or 4 tackles. That was a big play too. That got him a first down. They weren't in great down in distance. I don't remember if it was actually, I don't think it was a 3rd down, but I think it might have been like a 2nd and 10 or something like that. And he popped I mean, it wasn't like a super long run, but it was 13, 15 yards. It was enough for a first down, and it should not have gone for, I think, more than 2. So really a pretty great play. The rest of it, we have seen running backs running with a lot of space for several weeks now, going back into last year, and I think a lot of that continued. But he made the most of it. All right, Brian, we're going to give this another shot. Connecting audio on the tram. I can hear Brian. That's great.
Can you hear me, dude?
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hey, awesome. All right, so tell us your thoughts of this game.
Well, this was the game I kind of predicted last week, although I did predict the Seahawks to lose it last week. I've been waiting for this game where the special teams didn't completely shit the bed and the defense could actually show some of the progress they've made. And I thought that's what happened today. And I think the offense has been due for a game where they were going to kind of slow down a little bit and give the Cardinals credit. I thought they really came with a good game plan for how to stop the Seahawks offense, and Seattle doesn't have a good answer for it. So that's going to happen now and then. You're not going to just run roughshod over every team every week. And this game was basically won by the defense, which was nice to know that's possible. A division game that they won, and all of a sudden, Seahawks end up with 6 sacks and another couple turnovers caused by their rookies, and they have a good running game by another rookie. And it's hard to honestly not talk about the Cardinals a little bit. I don't know about you, but I look at that franchise and I'm like, woof. Kyler Murray, I would never accuse anyone that plays in the NFL of being scared or cowardly, but that guy is so averse.
We may have lost you there, Brian.
Contact that he just as soon as throws it away, he just. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
I don't know. I'll stop talking for a little bit.
No, you're good now. Now you're all good now.
I'm just glad that Kyler Murray's not my quarterback. That's the basic line there. I'm glad Kyler Murray's not our quarterback, and I'm certainly glad that we're not paying him $240 million or whatever it is.
I think you want. I mean, I definitely didn't think that Murray was cowardly or soft or anything today. I mean, he made a lot of plays with his feet, and I don't think you necessarily want quarterbacks to be looking for contact. That said, I was trying to think of how to explain this about the Cardinals. I mean, he missed some easy throws, and then they had some drops. I mean, they just beat themselves, and I don't want to. It feels bad to say that because I think that the Seahawks played really well and they deserve to win. So I don't want to say, oh, the Cardinals beat themselves and somehow as a degrading thing against the Seahawks. I don't mean it that way at all. It's just they just make things hard on themselves. It seems like I don't know. They just can't ever seem to really put it all together all the time. And yeah, again, I don't want anyone to come away with the impression here that I'm saying, oh, the Seahawks didn't deserve to win or they didn't play well or that the Cardinals beat themselves. But the Cardinals are very happy to beat themselves. They are very happy to throw things away.
Totally. And what I was saying about Murray was more just that I think he's a big part of the
you're breaking up on us pretty good here. You might have to try to call back in a bit or mute for a little while and see if your connection comes back because you're kind of gone. All right. So we have some folks that are
really. His head looks down. He starts looking.
Are you there? Okay. Brian's connection is okay. He's in a tunnel. All right, there are some folks that are really excited about the Bills winning in the chat, and I was confused about why. I thought maybe they were playing a division opponent. They're not. They're playing the Chiefs. But I'm happy for y'all in the chat that are happy about the Bills. Seahawks, though. Yeah, I don't know. I think defensively, the Cardinals, I mean, we talked about it, I think, going into this, right? They were a worse ranked defense than the Seahawks. And they didn't look like that at all. So I think Cardinals fans are probably feeling similarly about their defense, as Seahawks fans are feeling right now about our defense. But I do agree, like, there's just bad vibes on that Cardinals offense. And I don't know. I mean, I didn't really see anything where, like, I thought that Kyler Murray was super risk averse or super, worried about getting hit or something like that. But they just can't put it together, it feels like. I mean, you have drops, you have Murray misses, you have that screenplay where the receiver catches it and then just stumbled. And I don't know how much that was going to go for, but it wasn't going to lose 7 unless if he hadn't fallen. So, like, they just don't play clean at all. And yeah, I don't know. Not a scary team at all. Not a team that, like, if you're thinking about playoffs, whether you're a Seahawks fan or any other fan of the NFC West, I just can't imagine being too worried about that team because, yeah, that's not a team I'd be sad to meet in the playoffs at all.
Can you hear me better, Nathan?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I'm going to talk in shorter bursts.
Cool.
So, do you think DeAndre Hopkins makes a difference? Do you think DeAndre Hopkins makes a big difference for?
I think so. I mean, anytime you add a superstar player like that, especially at a receiver position, that's really important. It's going to help. I don't know if it's going to save that team, but boy, he buys them a lot of margin. He can eat into some of those mistakes that they make and make plays and stuff to make up for it. So I think that'll help, but I don't think it really changes my opinion a ton about that team.
So, other thing for this game was very rough game for the offensive line. It's bound to happen, but I think both rookies got abused at times. I thought Phil Haynes, from what I could see, had a rough game. I don't know that anybody on the offensive line played a good game. And then even the tight ends. Colby Parkinson, I think, made a business decision late in the game on J.J. Watt coming across and just whiffed completely on a block. Not a good game for blocking on the Seahawks offense.
It was a combination, too, because when Geno did have time, he didn't find much downfield, it seemed like. And maybe that was Geno, but I kind of think that was just the receivers not getting. I guess you could have seen that a lot better. I mean, were there opportunities for him that he was just missing? It just felt like the Cardinals defense had answers both in coverage, and then they were just getting the Seahawks offensive line did not play well. Brian, you're on mute if you're talking.
And I thought Geno had a rough game in making reads. There was a lot of blitzes that got home.
Yeah. So you did see, like, receivers and stuff that were open that Geno was just missing?
Opposite. No, I did not see see receivers open. No. I thought coverage really good. I think he forced some throws today that we haven't seen before. He forced some throws to DK, and DK got covered up pretty well today. Like, he lost that matchup pretty clearly. He got a couple catches toward the end, but he was not getting separation. And frankly, neither was Tyler. So D. Eskridge probably had the best game of any of the receivers.
Yeah, Eskridge and Goodwin got open once or twice, although I mix those two up constantly anymore. So, but yeah, I mean, like, he definitely forced that one to lock it deep that probably should have been picked on the goal line. So yeah, that was definitely my impression. I mean, it's hard to tell from the broadcast footage, but that was my thought as well. All right, I think we got Jeff. Do we have Jeff? Do we have Canadian representation on the post-game show?
Yeah, we do.
Hey, Jeff. So what'd you think about that game?
That went very differently than I thought. I did not envision a game where the Seahawks were going to get killed up front on offense. And, well, I definitely did that at some point. But they won up front on defense. And really, it's been, Nathan's pointed out several times, it's been the issue all year, how bad they've been up front. And that was just interesting to see Seattle kind of blow out a team, if not for that block punt thing in the end zone. That whole game was just looked like a blowout. And Kenneth Walker looked awesome. And he didn't have much to work with. The offensive line was terrible today, both in run block and in pass pro especially. But yeah, it was just a fun game to see the Seahawks defense come to life. And some of the guys we haven't seen much, Darrell Taylor and Brian Monet, even you got flashes from Puna. They really took over this game and won. And the Cardinals are pretty terrible. They are in trouble. They are shit. They got a shit thing going on.
I do think that the coverage was also good, though. Like, the defensive line was obviously the big story, but there was at least one, and I think two sacks that you could probably call coverage sacks. So even though the defensive line had stepped it up, I think they were getting the help from the secondary too. So that's all gelling. I mean, if you look back at the last 2 weeks, the biggest thing they've had issues with is quarterback runs, either wildcat stuff with Taysom Hill or, Murray getting out and running. In this game, that was probably the best offense that the Cardinals could put out there. So, and that's one of those where you're changing the math for the defense. And so it just gets harder. So they look like they're getting, I'm not going to say they're good or anything, but they look like they're kind of figuring it out and getting into steady state on the normal offense type stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that's a good point, because some of the stuff we saw last week, which was obviously overshadowed by the big runs from Taysom Hill and some of the stuff that you guys talked about during the week, it carried over to this game. And their coverage was a little tighter. In every game, we've seen guys just like at wide open. But the stuff they did well last week, I think it showed up again. That's a really good sign that they're fixing what clearly has been a problem to start the season.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, can we take a moment, if we haven't already, to just marvel at Tariq Woolen again? I mean, I know it was at the end of the game, but that's still a jump ball that probably doesn't get caught by almost any other Seahawks corner for the last 5 years. And that guy, whenever he's involved with a play, no one's breaking away from him. His coverage, he's never more than a yard or two off, and he's making the tackle and bringing them right down. And he recovered another fumble. And I thought Kobe Bryant had a really good game. I thought this was Kobe Bryant's best game. He had a terrific pass breakup, another forced fumble. That's 3 weeks in a row. What the hell's going on? 4 weeks in a row interception for Tariq. 3 weeks in a row fumble forced by Kobe Bryant. I think that's maybe the best news out of this game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, so I was talking about this while you were trying to join earlier. We were getting ahead of ourselves a little bit with Gino, and I mean, not that he played bad or anything today, but talking about, hey, if he keeps this up for the whole year, if he plays at an all-pro level, what are you doing with him at the end of the year? At this point, Woolen is on Defensive Player of the Year watch. I mean, 6 games in, so a lot of time for that to change. And obviously he's not going to, I don't think he's probably not going to keep getting a pick a game for the rest of the year. But through 6 games, if you're talking about Defensive Players of the Year, I mean, not that he's been perfect, but how is Woolen not at least an honorable mention or in the discussion of Defensive Player of the Year?
I love hyperbole, Nathan, Jeff. I mean, I don't know about you, but I could get down with a little bit of that.
I'm not making predictions. I'm just saying, if we're doing if the season ended today's thing, or if this continues for the whole season, I mean, I think he's kind of playing at that level. At least he's getting the stats and making the splash plays at that level.
I mean, he had allowed a 40 passer rating going into this game. That's going to go down, isn't it? With another pick, and maybe he gave up one pass for 4 yards or something.
I
don't remember him giving up with anything.
He did give up one pass.
Okay. You'll see a lot of the bias in the media based on Sauce Gardner and the Woo and how they're talked about. Because the Jets are 4-2, obviously a New York team. He's been having a great season, but Woolen is just the Seahawks don't get a lot of attention. I think Woolen's right up there. Brian's put out some stats where he is ahead of Gardner, and he's still kind of overlooked, and he should. I don't think Nathan's being over the top. I don't see how he isn't in the candidacy for Defensive Player of the Year right now. 4 picks in a row and just the contrast with Brian, what you said earlier. I don't know if you saw any of the Colts-Jaguars game, but the play of the game was a shot over Shaq Griffin's head where he's right with the receiver, doesn't make a play on the ball. And I'm not dunking on him, but it's just, you see that skill level that we talked about for years. Just that's the difference today. it was almost poetic to see that right into the Seahawks game.
Jeff, you've talked about for a while, like on the show, that like the defense is lacking playmakers, right? Like that's something you brought up a lot. And
Yeah.
Shaq Griffin's a perfect way to bring that up because Shaq Griffin's a good player, right? Like he's a quality cover corner, got a lot of money in the free agent market. But I might be alone in this, but I would rather have a guy like Kobe Bryant, not even Tariq, but Kobe Bryant, who's struggled at times, and his numbers are not nearly like sterling as other guys, but he's created turnovers 3 weeks in a row. I would rather have a guy that gives up some plays, but also makes some plays over a guy that's really good in coverage, but can't turn the ball over to save his life. Like, I think the team you need some of those guys. You need the Jordan Babineaus in there. Like, you need that type of thing.
So the offense, not as fun a game. Jeff, what did you take away from the offensive side?
I thought it started up front. I thought the offensive line made it really, really challenging. In obvious pass pro situations, they were getting really fooled by a lot of the stunts and some of the stuff Vance Joseph has done against them. This was the worst game for both tackles for sure. This was sort of what we expected to look like the learning curve. And it wasn't just the pass pro. They're getting struggling in the run game. Like early in the game, I thought the Seahawks were really conservative in short yardage situations based on what's worked with Geno and how the offensive line wins. And they were just getting killed. There was an early 3rd and 1. Because I don't know, Geno's numbers aren't great, but I thought Geno made a lot of heavy, really good throws under pressure. I'm sure some of the sacks were his fault, but a lot of them he just had no chance. And like some of Kenneth Walker's best runs, there was nothing there. And he was just making cuts. His cutback skill is really, really special. And really, like, it's hard to run an offense when you can't block up front. And that's been really the difference between this year and previous Seahawks teams. So I think they gave a lot of the playmakers. And I think Geno played a solid game, but he just didn't have much of a chance to put up numbers today.
Do you see it the same way, Nathan? I'm curious. Like, you talked about, like, was this a game where it was just bad pass protection and that's what Geno looks like with bad pass pro? Or do you think Geno, like, kind of came back to earth this week?
Yeah, it's hard for me to say without more downfield stuff, but like because the broadcast angles and everything. I do think that he might have missed an opportunity to go to Goodwin instead of Lockett on the one deep ball. But then I also don't really blame him for trusting Lockett. And, at the time that a quarterback has to throw it, it's not, Goodwin wasn't wide open at that point. So my guess is that it was mostly Geno just having to make do with, bad pass cover or bad pass protection and not a lot happening downfield. Lockett had like zero separation on that one play. So yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say, but that's my take on it too.
Yeah, I mostly agree. I think the thing where I'd really mark Geno down this game is the pre-snap stuff because there were a few blitzes that came free. And it didn't appear that someone missed their assignment. It looked like Geno hadn't picked it up and they didn't have a blocker there to cover the guy. And so that's on him. And then there are a few times where like he held on to the ball longer today. He was trying to make something out of nothing. And I think they were a little fortunate that he didn't have a few turnovers today, both with some forced throws and then also with some sacks where he just tried to make something and he's just lucky he didn't fumble. So I thought I didn't think this was a great game for Geno. I don't think it was a terrible game. I thought he made some throws where he was taking hits and he knew he was going to take a hit and he made some miraculous throws, which was pretty sweet. But his lineman, I'd say it's like 60-40, maybe 70-30 line to Geno's, responsibility and what we saw out there. One more question I have for both of you. I'd probably have more, but this was kind of the type of game we thought we might have, right? The offense a little bit ahead of the defense. The defense was going to look pretty meager with a game manager quarterback. And would you take this game over last week's game, knowing last week's was a loss and this week's was a win?
They held the Cardinals to a field goal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's hard. That's hard to turn down.
I think I'd agree. I just think when you play defense as bad as they played, it's really disheartening to watch. And yeah, the splash plays are still fun, and obviously those kind of shootout games are fun. But I just find like this when you can't cover anyone and you can't tackle Taysom Hill, I just find it's the most painful thing. Even as bad as like a bad offense game can be. I don't know where you stand on that, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, I was just kind of testing myself on it because I always say I'm a defensive guy. I like defense, and it's true. I guess even with this game, I still didn't feel like we had like a great defense. It was like some of it was the Cardinals sucking, and some of it was us. So it didn't feel like it was 6 sacks and a few turnovers. Like it should have been like awesome. It wasn't that entertaining. I was definitely more entertained by last week's game than I was by this week's game, and so like. I don't know if I want to watch this level of offensive output much more. That's pretty brutal.
Yeah, I mean, that is the one thing, right? Like, again, not to take away from the Seahawks defense or anything, but it did feel like the Cardinals were shooting themselves in the foot more than the New Orleans defense was last week. And so in that respect, like, it does seem a little it seems flukier than last week's game. Like, I don't know if you're going to get the same kind of offensive execution out of the Chargers next week. I think you probably expect them to perform a whole lot better. But I mean, if you're just saying, like, if you look at the two games and you look at, the one game where your defense only gave up a field goal, like, I think that's really hard to not prefer.
Aren't you guys kind of curious to see what this secondary, like the corners, look like against a passing offense? Like, we haven't really faced like a good passing offense for a while, right? Like mostly we've been having to try to stop the run. I'm sure the Chargers will run on us as well, but like I want to see Tariq against Justin Herbert. Like I want to see that matchup.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, teams have to be getting to the point where they just won't throw at Woolen anymore, right? Like, how many more picks in these kinds of plays does he need to make before teams like really start to respect that?
Well, and think about the effect that has on the defense when one side gets taken away.
Yeah, I mean, it could be huge. And then, if you can get Trey Brown back, I don't know why that was so hard to say. And then Kobe Bryant, is looking like maybe he took a step forward in this game. Yeah, I mean, you could see this defense really start to come into, some decent shape.
Was it just me, or did Cody Barton not play much at all today?
I don't think it was just you. I don't remember him doing anything.
He was in on the Ernst deep shot. That was him covering Ernst, and he got. If it wasn't for Miles Adams running down the field late, I think he gives up a touchdown there.
Yeah, probably. He bumped into him.
Yeah.
But man, Kenneth Walker.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, sorry. Go ahead. I can't remember any Barton plays.
I was just trying to remember because I don't think he was out there a lot. And I'm wondering if we're going to find out there's there's a schematic change or a personnel change where they had either a different linebacker out there or they had more safeties out there or something.
Christian Jones was out there at least a little bit. But I wasn't tracking it too close.
Barton had 2 total tackles, which seems low. Brooks had 11 total, 6 solo. That's oddly low for a linebacker in this scheme.
Well, that's actually, you remind me of something else, Jeff. So Brooks, I think, has come on. Like, these have been his best 2 games the last 2 weeks. I thought he had a solid game in this one. I thought last week's was a little better, but this was good. And then Darrell Taylor. And we talked about Darrell Taylor. There was Darrell Taylor sightings in this game.
Sorry about
that. Yeah, I mean, the whole defensive line was alive, right? They were they were they were getting after the quarterback. Everyone. I mean, Puna, Taylor, Monet, the whole group, like, were finally like they were living up to that pass rush win rate that we were talking about in the group chat the other day.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I was going to post something about that. Yeah, I mean, to me, the two guys that really like stand out. I mean, we know Shelby Harris is a good player, and he's made plays here and there. Puna has been totally absent, like totally absent. He had 3 tackles for loss today, I think. And Darrell Taylor, it had gotten pretty depressing about that guy. Like, he might just not be much, and ends up with a strip sack. And actually was in on a couple other plays. I think he's going to end up with a handful of pressures in this game. So that was good to see. I mean, I'll take anything we can from younger defensive players at this point.
All right, let's do it. Let's do the Kenneth Walker talk.
Yeah, Brian, what did you think today?
Yeah, like, I mean, certainly made me feel better about him stepping in and looking like he can be a guy that can take the rock. There were a couple, as expected, rookie mistakes where he went the wrong way, blew up some plays by himself by not being there for the handoff, not picking up the right guy on a blitz. Like, there was a couple of those. But from a pure athlete standpoint, I mean, that run along the sidelines was super impressive. The touchdown run was good. That was both of those things were his reads. And then there was that run that was awesome, almost as good as those other ones. It got called back for holding, but he stayed in bounds toward the end of the game, last drive, and so I thought he ran well. I still don't know if I can say exactly what he is as a runner, but I think he does not look like he's going to be Rashad Penny for 3 years, where you're like, oh my God, what did they spend a pick on this guy for? He's doing absolutely nothing. He looks like a guy that can step in and do the job. So that was good. I'm curious what you guys thought.
I was very impressed. I think, Brian, you did cover some of the things he did wrong. He still runs the wrong way. He's still in short yardage, struggled today. And he's just not as savvy as Penny was at this point. But I think he has some really special qualities. And to me, what I saw is that his cutback skill looks really special. And it sort of reminds me of what like Le'Veon Bell used to be, where when he was really patient and then boom, he would just change direction. And I think for a rookie, that's a really hard skill. And that's what opened his touchdown last week. And then today there was a couple runs where there was just nothing there. He was able to cut back up the field and create. And to me, that's obviously I was in your camp where I did think the pick was completely unjustified, but he does have some special qualities. And Vance Joseph apparently said in the pre-meetings with the broadcast, I mentioned this early in the game, apparently he said that he thought Walker was a better fit for the Seahawks offense than Penny was. So he thought they caught a bit of a break, that he's going to get more snaps now. But yeah, it was fun to watch him run. That was one of the only enjoyable parts of the offense today, other than a couple of Geno throws. So I thought he was really, really fun and just makes this offense even more explosive. And yeah, you miss Penny, but it is fun watching him run when you can just cut back like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely fun to...
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
Sorry. No, please go ahead.
I'll say he's definitely fun to watch. He can hit home runs. He's really fast. And the play where he broke all the tackles was awesome. The rest of it, I don't. I mean, we've seen this offense creating huge holes for running backs for many, many weeks now. And I think that while overall, I agree that the offensive line didn't play particularly well. And he had some plays where he was getting blown up by JJ Watt, like 3 yards in the backfield. Obviously not his fault at all. But overall, I mean, on his big plays, I think if you go look, like he's really on his own. He's got a ton of space and a ton of green. He outruns Murphy to the corner for the touchdown, but Murphy kind of quits on that play. And I don't know what that jump thing was, but I think if Murphy doesn't quit and he catches Walker in the air, that's probably not a touchdown. So yeah, I think he is probably exactly what, I mean, he was billed as. He's a home run hitter. And in this offense with how they're able to get their backs into the second level in space like regularly now for, again, weeks and weeks. We saw it with Penny, and now it's the same thing with Walker. He's gonna have a huge year if he can stay healthy. But I didn't see anything that makes me go back and think, oh, I was such a fool for not liking the pick. Like, no, I mean, he's a running back, and it just is what it is. We'll see if he can keep breaking tackles like that one run. Then I will eat my words happily. But at this point, I don't see a big change there.
But
there's nothing that's going to change my opinion about using a second round pick on a running back unless he's like, all pro level. I just don't like that from a roster management period. But yeah, I don't know. I think as someone who's been hard on Walker, at least saying, let's be patient with crowning the guy. He came into this game 11th in the NFL in elusive rating, which is about broken tackles and causing missed tackles. So that's good. And then I think you're right on the first run, Nathan. His first big explosive run was like 30 yards. Like, I think most running backs make that play. But then I think you should go back if you haven't watched the play where he takes it to the outside. His big run toward the end zone. It wasn't for a touchdown. I think that was a read up the middle, and he took it outside, made a play. And I think the touchdown run was supposed to go somewhere else, and he read that play. So I saw both of those as plus reads and not just the offense working the way the offense is supposed to work.
We talk about there's Noah Fant. Is anyone as annoyed with him? I know we talked about the preseason. There's something about him that's just driving me crazy watching this team.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I almost interrupted Nathan for that particular reason. I was like, are we still all united in not being a Noah Fant fan? Like, yeah, I'm with you, Jeff. I don't like watching him play.
Like, there's a play where it's one of the early possessions where they were moving the ball and they threw out a pretty good design route to him in space, and first down is like as easy as you can get. Sometimes guys go out of bounds before the first down line. This was weird. He ran into the defender to like take on contact when he could have just like walked for a first down. And Derek brought up in our chat a good point. Like, coming out of college, he looked like one of like the most athletic, like elusive tight end. He was a top 20 pick. He kind of looks like Jimmy Graham did at the end of he looks a little stiff, and it's a little concerning. And there's a play where he like drops a ball right in his hands, and they're about to run for a first down. He crashes into the offensive lineman or Walker. It's just like, it's bringing me back to that thing from the preseason that drove us all crazy. It's like awareness is so low, and he's really not making that big of an impact. He kind of just looks the same as Colby Parkinson. I like the 3 tight end set, but man, that one today really pissed me off. I don't know. I'm not enjoying him. He is really not a smart football player so far.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to contrast him actually with like Ken Walker, because Walker like looks every bit the home run threat that you would think he would be from his combine numbers, and Noah Fant looks nothing at all like his combine numbers would lead you to believe. Yeah, he's just, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with expectation, I think, because I mean, he's caught at least 2 or 3 balls in probably every game this year, and he's caught some first downs and he's done a couple things, but like he just, yeah, his Madden awareness rating, I don't know what it really is, but like if I was setting it, it would be awfully low.
I love that. I was just reading, by the way, some news out of the Pete Carroll presser. 1, no injuries, so that's always great to hear. 2, said they made some defensive adjustments up front this week to focus on keeping Arizona's running game contained. Clint Hurtt tweaked some things to play the guys up front, and Carroll believes this will be helpful moving forward. Quandre Diggs says, I don't know why you'd test a 6'4" corner who runs a 4.2 on a go route. Yeah, couple little tidbits. I'll see if there's anything else.
And Diasport showed some life today.
Yep. He is physically talented.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if he has the same awareness rating as Noah Fant, and that's why he's not getting on the field. But at least when he is out on the field, he looks like what he's supposed to look like. I mean, he doesn't create opportunities for himself very often, to even get on the field. And then he doesn't seem to have a lot of trust, but that catch he made was really nice. And then, he gets the ball in his hands and he's immediately moving. So I don't know, whatever is holding him back, I really hope he can figure it out.
Yeah, during the game, I was kind of hoping he would get more touches. Yeah, the catch he made in traffic, which was the ball was thrown behind him. That was a really nice grab. And the play that Gino made to him in wide open space, which looked like a throwaway, I thought that was a really cool play where Gino was about to get crushed and he was about to get sacked. It looked like he was just throwing the ball away. And Eskridge is wide open in space. He ended up taking a huge hit, but yeah, he looks like a fun player. Like I'm guessing his X's and O's and he's not running the right plays because he's not getting the field very much. As Brian even mentioned, like DJ Dallas was doing punt returns or something like that. But he looks talented. Like I would like to see him get more. They don't have much at third receiver right now, but I don't know if they need it.
Brian, are you willing to admit that D. Eskridge was the right pick over Creed Humphrey yet?
No, that will never happen. I do have some big news to share. I know maybe you guys already mentioned it, but the Rams fear that left tackle Joe Noteboom has an Achilles injury that could keep him out for the rest of the season.
That sucks. That team is crumbling a little bit, it feels like.
Yeah, I thought it would take a few years for like the pay the piper thing, and then this year basically their entire offensive line is injured and Whitworth retired. And they spent a lot of money on Allen Robinson and Bobby Wagner, who are fine players. Allen Robinson's been pretty terrible until today, and Bobby's been okay. He's just PFF grades are good, but I watch them every week, and it's sort of what we saw last year. It's just not really making impact plays on the game. And to get a $10 million off-ball linebacker, that's just bad spending. And we always kept asking, like, when the Rams going to struggle for this? And Dayna was always freaking out about their cap, and I kept explaining to her that they're pushing this all into the future like a credit card. And yeah, they won today, but they went toe-to-toe with like PJ Walker and Jacob Eason. They couldn't move the ball against a team that just fired their coach. Like they look like, it's funny because we were talking about this, let's get off topic here, for years, Brian. We were talking about like what's going to happen in the NFC when Brady and Rodgers fall off. And it's kind of happening. The Packers lost again today. The Steelers, with Mitch Trubisky coming off the bench, beat Tampa. And all of a sudden, like you look at teams with the best future outlook, like there's Philly, there's Dallas, San Francisco, and Seattle have the best position next. Like there's not a lot.
Like Dallas, not Dallas. The 49ers got their asses handed to them at Atlanta today. Yeah. It wasn't even close. No. I mean, wasn't the final score like 28-14? They got like doubled up.
They were missing a lot of defensive players, and they've been winning with defense this year, and their defense wasn't good today.
I do wonder though. Injury serious?
Pardon?
Is the Bosa injury, was that from his groin thing? I mean, or do we know if it's a serious injury?
They lost Bosa, Armstead, Kinlaw, and their top corner tore his ACL. And then Jimmy Ward was out. But Jimmy Garoppolo looked pretty shitty today, which is always a nice fun state. Trent Williams is out. Eli Mitchell's out. Well, that's a shame, but
getting back to the Rams though, like I do wonder how much of this is they're just finally having to pay the piper, and how much of this is they finally took big swings that missed, right? If they spend the Bobby and Allen Robinson money on something else, I don't know what the other alternatives, or something, right? And then so it's the same thing. And now Stafford is looking a little cooked, so maybe it wouldn't have mattered either way. But yeah, I do wonder if this is not so much everything just catching up to them as much as it is they just made some bad decisions.
Yeah, that's a great point, because last year they got Von Miller and Odell Beckham, and that just totally boosted their team. And that money went to those two guys this year. And that's what happens in free agency. That's why those guys hit free agency.
Well, I think that's the point, right? Is like when you have that much money in that few players, then you can't afford to really miss on your free agent signings. And like they missed badly. And now they've got the Cam Akers issue. So the running back situation, I mean, there was a rumor about them being interested in Christian McCaffrey. Is like, please God, go get Christian McCaffrey. Like whatever, like they'd have to dump their draft picks for the next 5 years probably to go get Christian McCaffrey. And you put a running back, even a great one, behind that offensive line. Good luck, dude. That's not gonna save you. And I would love to see them do that. But I mean, look at the division, guys. Cardinals, we just talked about. That's not a team I think any of us fear. Could the Cardinals beat the Seahawks in Arizona? Of course, because the Seahawks are not a team anyone fears either. But is there a team that you're like, man, Seahawks have no chance to beat that team in the division when they like the Rams? Do you feel like the Seahawks have no chance to beat the Rams?
No, not at all.
No. Basically every other year, yes.
A healthy Niners team would still worry me. It's just, I guess, just the one game, but
yeah, the way they match up of how they win is just the worst possible fit for this team. We saw it the last time they played.
Yeah,
but
I guess it'll
Niners
depend on how.
I
think it's going to depend a little bit on how Mosley's injury is made up for. Like they're really putting a lot of eggs in the Jason Verrett basket that he's going to come back and not get injured again and be great again. But I think their corners were abused in this game against the Falcons. And I agree. Like, I don't want to sound crazy. 100% the 49ers should be favored to win if they play the Seahawks, period. But if the 49ers team that played today came into Seattle and the Seahawks from the last few weeks played against the 49ers, I think there's a real good chance the Seahawks win that game. So I guess my point is, we might actually be talking about a division race for the Seahawks. Like, this is a first place team, technically not because of tiebreakers, but we're 6 weeks into the season and they're tied with everybody. And I don't know, man. Like, this could be really weird to see what happens over the next few weeks. This Chargers game coming up for the Seahawks is certainly going to be an interesting measuring stick. The Seahawks should get spanked, right? Like that's a game they should get their butts kicked. But yeah, the Chargers would lose some weird games, right?
I think the point Nathan made before the season is looking really astute right now. If you look, I've been watching the whole league pretty closely, but it's going to be really hard for the people who thought the Seahawks would be in the top 5, or even I think it's going to be really hard to end up in the top 5. There are so many bad to average teams right now in the league that, like, there's just a real, like, there's like a few 3 or 4 top teams, and then the rest of the league is like buried in the middle. And the Seahawks could conceivably be 5-1, but 3-3 with their defense is totally fair. But that's 3 wins in 6 games. And you look at the Panthers and the Texans and Washington and the Bears and how Green Bay is starting to fall off. Like, it's going to be really hard for those who thought, okay, Seahawks are going to get a top 5 quarterback or Will Anderson or any of those guys. It's interesting. They might be closer to a 7-8 win team now, and not the best thing long term, but very different than how I thought the season would go. And I think a lot of people thought that's where they would end up based on some of their roster talent. But looking at the league today, it's just there's a lot of teams that I watch the Seahawks and I think they're better than. I was not expecting that. I know Bill Barnwell said they had the worst offseason of any team, which obviously the Russell thing, that looks pretty laughable right now. They had by far, it looks like maybe the best offseason of any team in the league.
That Barnwell thing was kind of dumb at the time, though, too. Like,
if you look at their draft class and the Russell for Geno swap, and like, if you put this deep,
it's a great point, Jeff. Like, what's the thing on the offseason? I mean, you can still criticize it, but like, how can you not give the team an A for this offseason?
Oh, I think it's an A+.
Jordan Brooks, Greg Bell showed a tweet or a quote. Jordan Brooks on rookie cornerback Tariq Woolen's 4 picks in the last 4 games. He doesn't even know what he's doing half the time. He's playing on talent. That almost comes a little salty or something. I'm not sure, but the talent is unbelievable for sure. So is everybody, I'm curious, are we, first of all, that Falcons loss fucking hurts right now. I mean, God. But where are you guys at right now? Are you rooting for the playoffs? Are you like, is that where your mind is, or are you still thinking, Brian? Are you still thinking about draft picks and all that?
Oh, I'm all about draft picks, but I'm not rooting for the team to lose. So like my position from the beginning of the year and like all off season, everyone, Evan and everyone's like, embrace the tank, whatever it was. Like, I think
It was a
that's
little more
short-sighted.
colorful than that from Evan, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, that was
Yes.
the gist of it.
Yeah, that was way too low energy.
I would never deign to live up to Evan's energy level, but I've always said that like if you get a top 5 pick, then you're a team like the ones that Jeff just mentioned. You're a team like Washington or Chicago or Houston, and guess what? You get one of those picks, you're not 1 or 2 years away. You're probably 3 or 4 years away from contending. So I always thought the best case scenario is for the Seahawks to win 7 to 9 games, like, and where I was totally wrong is like have it be defensive talent and then like, figure out a quarterback to build around it. So yeah, I mean, if they make the playoffs, the ideal situation maybe is they make the playoffs and Denver just collapses and they get a top 10 pick from the Broncos and you get a, top 20 pick, top 23 pick from the Seahawks, and you get your 2 second-round picks that are both high as well. And yeah, I'd be excited about that. I'd much rather that than have a total tank. And, yeah, that's been my point of view the whole time.
Jeff, is that where you were too?
Yeah, it's sort of a win-win situation for me where the way they're winning, if it was more like they're winning because they're taking shortcuts or the veterans, but they're winning really mostly with guys who are going to be here long-term. And obviously Geno, we still don't know how that will play out, but the rookie class, if they can win on the backs of the rookie class, to me, that's far more important, far more sustainable than if it was like Quandre Diggs and Shelby Harris and some of those guys who we don't know where they're going to be in 2 years, or if someone like the defense was playing well, but the offense looked like shit and they just kept sliding by. This is like a sustainable program they're building. And to me, even if they end up in the middle and kind of hurts their talent level, even though I think they badly need it on defense, if it's the rookie class driving these wins, I will take the wins. But to me, they're in the, even if they lost like the game today, it was like, I'm seeing what I need to see out of who's important. And that's to me the big picture development. And yeah, if they end up with a top 10 pick at the end of the year, then that's great. But Brian, I thought you nailed it in your article this week. I think the fact that I'm openly cheering for them to win is a win alone. Like, I did not think that would be the case this year. I thought they would be unwatchably bad on offense. And I find myself getting into these games, and I really didn't think I would. I thought they were going to be like the San Francisco game. I thought half the games would look like that. And almost every game's been interesting. And I think it's mostly because of Geno and because of the rookies.
What about you, Nathan? Where are you?
Oh, so the Falcons game shook me, and I didn't know that they were going to be able to make up for that. I still didn't think that they were like the oh my God, they're so terrible, they'll be lucky to win 5 games, right? I was still of the opinion this was a 7-something win team. But I didn't know, like, that felt like one that this team had to have, and there aren't a lot of wins for them to make up. But at this point, 3-3, looking at the division, I'm right back at it's not crazy to think this is a playoff team, right? Like, they have a clear path here, and some of the things that they needed to do to get there are happening. I had like 4 or 5 things that I said needed to happen. The run game needed to continue to be extremely good. Check. Geno needed to be at least okay. Check. The Cardinals needed to be a disaster. That's looking like a check. And Trey Lance needed to struggle. Well, he's hurt, unfortunately, but Jimmy is Jimmy. So like that Niners team, even if they can get healthy and get right, like, quarterback play is still going to be an anchor for them. So like, yeah, I still think playoffs are 100% in play. Also, so there are 8 teams with 2 wins between the NFC and the AFC. And then the Lions, Panthers, Texans, and Raiders all have 1 win. So to Jeff's earlier point about, like, how this team gets into the top 3 or the top 5 of the draft, like, it's a little bit of a tough path, right? Like, this team is too good. Even if they end up just being, again, like a 7-win team, they're not going to be this awful team that some people thought they were going to be, and they're not tanking. They're 3-3. They're tied for the best record in the division. So I'm full on team playoffs.
And you go.
How much fun is it going to be to watch the Chargers Broncos game tomorrow night, where we get to watch our next opponent and we get to cheer for them against the Broncos? I mean, that's going to be fun.
Yeah, and you look at their schedule coming up. Seattle, they got Chargers next week, who've been a little wonky. The Giants after. The Giants are 5-1. They've had the strangest season. But they play the Cardinals again, the Bucks today, and then Vegas, Rams, Carolina. It's not a very daunting stretch. I think Nathan made that point earlier in the year, and that's a winnable game basically every week. And we might look stupid in 2 weeks for suggesting this, but yeah, now tomorrow's game is Broncos games for me are super fun, regardless. Obviously, I never expected Russell to look like this, and maybe it's the injury, maybe it's not, but I find in general it's just more fun to cheer against something than to actually cheer for something. I find it's just like stress-free, and man, it's been fun dunking on Denver and their media and their fans this year.
Okay, immediate reaction: the Seahawks are 3-3. They beat division rival Cardinals. Let's run through the schedule and see where you two have them really quick. So just really, really fast, let's go through. Seahawks and Chargers. Do either of you think, Jeff, do they win?
No, I don't think so.
Brian?
No.
Giants. Jeff?
I do.
Okay. Brian?
That's a home game, yes.
Okay. Cardinals again, at Cardinals. Jeff?
Yeah, I think they win there.
Brian?
Yep.
At Buccaneers in Germany. Jeff?
I'll say loss.
Brian?
Loss. That's really close, though.
I'm surprised it's close. That feels like a slam dunk to me, a loss. But Raiders, Jeff?
I'm going to say loss in that one.
Really? Raiders at home?
Yeah, I just don't think they match up well. But
okay, right.
It's a very winnable game.
Yeah, I think I'd say loss too, with the pass rushers that they've got.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Loss.
At the Rams, Jeff?
Probably a loss.
Brian?
I'm gonna go with win.
Panthers at home, Jeff?
Definite win.
Brian?
Win.
49ers at home, Jeff?
Loss.
Brian?
Win.
Ooh, spicy.
Fuck the 49ers.
At the Chiefs, Jeff?
Loss.
Brian?
Loss.
Jets at home. That one's looking tougher and tougher.
Yeah, the Jets are pretty good. The Jets are a lot like the Seahawks.
You got them winning?
I'm going to say win, though.
Okay. Brian?
I go with win.
And then Rams at home, Brian?
Win.
Me
Jeff.
too. I'm going to say win.
Brian, you think that this is going to be a 6, 9, 10 win team? You have them winning 6 more games. Wait, is that right? No, a 9-win team. No, you have them winning 7 more games. I can do math. I can count. Brian, you have them as a 10-win team at this point in the season. And Jeff, you have them as an 8-win team at this point in the season.
Yeah,
that feels like a nice range. Yeah.
I mean, I was 8 wins preseason, so 10 is a 2-win improvement. I think they're at least 2 wins better than I thought to start the year.
Yeah, I was 6 to start the year, and I am an 8 now. Yeah, I couldn't agree with more.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, there's some amazing content out there. Brian, you shared it in the chat here. The Seahawks trolling the Cliff picture. The Sports Center account had an awesome Giants and Jets tweet that, I'm not a big fan of either of those teams, but you have to appreciate it. So should we release everybody to enjoy their timelines, or do you have any other pressing topics after we so I just want to the Real Hawk Talk official stance is that Geno is going to win MVP. Tariq Woolen is your defensive player of the year, and the Seahawks are winning 10 games.
Seems reasonable.
Yep, I agree.
And that Denver is going to give us a top 10 pick.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if anything, we're being too conservative on this. So, all right. I think we'll wrap it there.
Thank you.
Yep. I think we will wrap it there. Thanks, folks. Hit the like button. We have the Patreon, the Slack, where you can chat about Seahawks and agree with us on all our very smart Geno Smith and Tariq Woolen predictions. Get questions in for the midweek podcast. And all that goes to a good cause. So if that's something that you can do, it's a good time. All right, Seahawks win. They beat the stinky Cardinals. Go Hawks.